I know you're going to have lots and lots of questions for Oki, so I will keep this very short. I've known Oki for 30 years, I think. He was actually younger than he even looks today. His resume speaks for itself, so I won't repeat it. I will point out one thing that's not on his resume. He went to Kaisei High School. Those of you in Japan know that school. So Kaisei, Tokyo University, graduates of that group control most of Japan. At the same time, he started an online trading company, a venture startup, so he's also a bit of an outsider. So Oki is both an insider and an outsider in the Japanese economy. When he first made partner at Goldman Sachs, he was fondly pointed out to everybody that he was the only partner who had never lived or been educated in an English-speaking country. But his English is actually, pretty good. The title of the talk today is "Where is Japanese Money Going?" Hopefully not to North Korea, but stocks, deposits, or cryptocurrencies. And I think I know what everybody is interested in of those three. And so without further ado, I'll introduce Oki, and he'll tell us what is going on in the world of cryptocurrencies.
Before I talk about, let me briefly introduce my company and myself. Monex is the online brokerage company which I founded 1999, so 19 years ago. Now we have the operation not only in Japan but also in the States. It's the sixth largest online broker in the States called TradeStation, as well as we have operation in Hong Kong, in Sydney, and a joint venture in China. And as you may know, we recently acquired CoinCheck, one of the largest cryptocurrency exchanges in Japan. And so we have this kind of assets in our group. I myself graduated the Tokyo University in 1987. As Jun said, actually, those days I didn't speak almost any English, but I joined Salomon Brothers in New York. I joined Salomon Brothers in Tokyo and then sent to New York in 1987. And then, they went to the training class, and then the Black Monday happened. But after that, I was assigned to the derivatives desk. So I started my career in the Salomon Brothers as a derivatives specialist in fixed income and currency. And then after 3 years, I moved to Goldman Sachs, and then created the yen fixed income derivatives desk in Goldman Sachs. And then I was in Salomon and Goldman for 12 years in total, and then I founded the Monex. So this derivatives background actually has got some meaning, so I explain that later. So today's topic is where the Japanese retail money is going. First of all, I'd like to talk about the Japanese retail people's financial literacy. Many people repeatedly have said that Japanese retail people don't have the high level of the financial literacy. Just picking that the fact that they've been putting almost all money into deposit, they just blamed that Japanese don't have the financial literacy, which I think is totally wrong, because what happened was when the bubble busted in the late 1980s, the Japanese household was the net seller of the real estate. So then the banks were buyer of the real estate at the peak of the bubble. And when you look at the history of human being in any country in any period, whenever the asset bubble happened, at the peak of the bubble, households are always a buyer. Okay, but in just one case in Japan, in the asset bubble in the 1980s, the retail was the seller, net seller at the peak, and then bank bought. And what the Japanese people did with that money after the proceeds of selling the real estate, they put that money into the Japanese fixed income. That time it was yielding 6%. they didn't put money into stocks, it's tanked. They didn't put money into dollar asset, it also tanked. They put money into the 6% yielding yen fixed income, and then rates went down and the yen strengthened, so it was the best performing asset. So, so while the stock are falling down in Japan, they kept money into deposit, and that was the best performing asset. Especially after tax return, it was just completely, much better than any other assets. So I don't understand the people blame on them saying that you don't have the literacy, financial literacy, because you put money into deposit, but that was the best performing asset. Okay, so I think the Japanese people are actually really good in making investment decision. So they put money into the place where the price going up, basically. They put money there whereby the price is not going down. So the answer for where the Japanese retail money going from here, if it's deposit or stocks or cryptocurrency, it's, at the end, it depends on which price will go up. And let me, briefly analyze which asset would be good. The stocks would be very good. As currently the Japanese corporations' corporate profit level is 4 times of compared to the bubble period, 4 times. But the market cap of the entire listed companies in Japan is just the same as the bubble period. Okay, so corporate earnings are 4 times, but the market cap is the same. So it's somehow something wrong. Obviously, at the bubble period, it was too high, but the current share price seems to be too low. And also, the Japanese corporations' quality is much better than before. If it's corporate governance or whatever, it's just much better than before. Internal controls, just great. And also, the CEOs of the Japanese corporations these days are becoming younger and younger, and that's good. The biggest problem of Japan biggest problem of Japan was I think that the success experience after World War II. In the World War II, Japan was completely devastated, and then from there, Japan really recovered. That was a great big success experience. And then, for those who had that experience, couldn't change the way they do the business or they operate the society, but those people are now going out. So that is, and then the younger people, they don't have success experience. So they just think about what they should do. So that is they have to comply the global rules and such. So that is good for Japanese companies. But anyway, the quality of Japanese companies are much better than before. If you look at the dividend yield, the dividend yield for Japanese corporations, listed companies, touch below 2%. It is exactly the same level as the dividend yield for the S&P 500 companies, like 1.9% or something. In the States, 10-year government bond yield is 3%, and in Japan, it is 0%. Okay, and then when you compare this, it is a compelling argument that the Japanese people should buy more Japanese stocks than Japanese government bond. And also, if you look at the recent some stupid scandals coming out of the Japanese government, it's better to buy the corporations than buy the government. So you laugh it, but I think what's happening in the States may be the reflection of that. The stock price keep going up, and as I said, dividend yield of the stocks are lower than the Treasury 10-year rate. So this kind of putting potentially, hypothetically or potentially putting more trust into corporations over government may be happening. But anyway, so JGB has been trading 0%, and the stocks trading yield over 2% is just, it looks like to me, Japanese stocks are buying. The problem is the mindset of retail people are actually very important. In Japan, if you took the like a 10-year moving average of the stock price, it was always going down, right? And since Abe came in, it started, gradual going down because of it's a 10-year moving average. Even with a 1-year change, the moving average doesn't change. But now it start coming back. This 10-year moving average really affects to the mindset of retail people. In the States, it was always going up, 10-year moving average, right? So you have the kind of image that you can make money by owning stocks. So when the Lehman shock happened, the stock price went down. People said, okay, let's buy them. Okay? In Japan, completely the other way around. Because the moving average is going down, so whenever stock price goes up, okay, let's take profit. Because the sentiment is going down. But now it's gradually coming back because of the Abenomics. So with this, the strong corporate earning, better quality of the corporation, good dividend yield over the government bond, and this, the moving average changing and then sentiment is changing. So I think the money, people will start buying more of stocks over fixed income in Japan. As regard to crypto, it is interesting. So these days, it's kind of a new graduate recruiting season in Japan right now. So many students come to Monex. Again, we are online brokers, basically. And we ask them questions, the young guys. So you come here, get interviewed. So do you have experience in investment in the mutual fund or stocks? And they say, no, but I have some Bitcoins. Okay? So, it's, so those millennials are really into cryptos compared to, older people. The cryptocurrency, the market cap of the cryptocurrency is now about 5% of the gold. The gold meaning the gold which was, mined in the history of the earth, the entire summation of market cap is about $8 trillion. And cryptocurrency market cap is now about $400 billion. So it's 5%. So it's becoming the important one new asset class. And it's very volatile, so it attracts the traders' attention. And also, so with the 5% of the market cap of the gold, even gold says 99.999%. It may be fake. And even gold, it may get stolen. The same thing for the crypto. You need to have a technology or some framework to make sure that that cryptocurrency is not the fake one. And also, you need to have a technology and a service that crypto don't get stolen. But once that is done, then it's better than gold, potentially, because it's very light. You can carry it. So it's possible for some people to start moving, for those who are keeping a part of their asset in gold, to move that thing to cryptocurrency. So that may be happening. And also, as I said, trading the volatility is always kind of something that the traders like. So that may be happening too. And also payments. When you think about especially P2P payments, if you try to pay something to your friend in Japan or in France, if you go to a bank, it takes crazy time to get it done, and also you have to pay a lot. Even you use the different services, it may cost you a lot. But with the cryptocurrency, you can do it in real time and almost no cost. So if it's an asset class, if it's a trading object or the payment method, I think the cryptocurrency is going to be very important. And also, of course, the blockchain technology is very important. You can change many of the record-keeping system, replacing all those legacy system with the blockchain technology. For example, in Japan, you may remember that about 10 years ago, the government lost lots of public pension data. It's crazy. But by using blockchain, for example, if you record those national pension data in blockchain, you never lose it, and the cost would be, almost nothing compared to the current system, whereby people doing all kind of bookkeeping, and also whenever the one change the employer, still it's one blockchain belong to the one person, so it's very safe. So if it's asset class or trading object or payments method or new bookkeeping technology, I mean, using blockchain, the accounting world may get completely different. The accounting is basically, I mean, there's no color for money. So in accounting is a kind of the process to label money again for what this money was used. But with blockchain, it's a labeled money, so you don't need to do the all accounting. It's automatically accounting is done. So there are lots of possibility for blockchain. Now, go back to the theme today, if the Japanese retail to move money into crypto. First of all, Japanese retail do love volatility. And so with the blockchain, with the cryptocurrency trading with a high volatility, I think it should attract lots of Japanese retail people to come to crypto. The problem is the tax. Currently in Japan, whenever you make money in trading crypto, the general income tax rate should be applied. Okay, so it can be as high as 55%. It is ridiculous. For the stocks or bonds or even FX, it's a financial products, so it's a 20% withholding tax. And also you can consolidate the profit and loss, but the crypto, you cannot consolidate the profit or loss with anything, and also you have to pay general income tax. So that clearly only attract the speculators. It won't today attract the ordinary investors to come to crypto in Japan. I think at some countries in Europe, I'm not completely sure, but I believe for the France or Germany, they set the tax rate for cryptocurrency trading as 0% or something, or 5% something. So they have a better strategy to attract those flow. But in Japan, it's still very behind. The tax is a very important incentive for retail people to move money. For example, in Japan, ordinary people put more money into real estate than to stocks. At least when you think about inheritance, when you start thinking about how to transfer your asset to your kids, you would never buy stocks in Japan. Because in Japan, you have a stock, and if you die, then usually it takes about a year or something to settle how the asset to be distributed to kids. And then the tax they need to pay don't depend on the price when that is distributed, but depend upon when, the one died. Okay, so a huge volatility risk, right? So if the market, if the price goes down, then you may have to pay tax more than what you get. It's ridiculous. So that people say, don't die with stocks. Okay, the real estate, the volatility is much smaller, and also there are lots of deduction. When you calculate inheritance tax, there are lots of deduction for the real estate. So people try to have real estate before you die to transfer wealth to your kids more efficiently. Okay, so this is really happening. So the tax is a strong incentive for people to move money around. So crypto, as I said, is so high tax, so that I don't think crypto in Japan is going to be used for, the method to keep asset, because just the tax rate is too high. But still, I think lots of money will come to crypto, because traders, as I said, Japanese do love volatility, and when they trade, they don't care tax. Okay, you don't buy things to try. You don't trade things to make money, thinking about paying tax. Like you don't drink thinking about getting drunk, getting hangover next day. Okay, so people would come to crypto in Japan regardless of the tax rate, but as regard to the asset allocation, I think it's going to take time for Japanese retail people to move, good portion of money into crypto. When I think about cryptocurrency, I have to say that is very similar to derivatives in 1980s. I said that I started my career in derivatives, but it's very, very similar. In 1980s, people thought only a few people could understand derivatives, just the rocket scientists and those people. Okay, but in 5 years later, all business schools of the world were teaching derivatives. Okay, 1980s, there's no repo market for various securities. Similarly, in the cryptocurrency today, but repo market was established, matured very quickly in the derivatives, in the securities market. So I believe crypto is going to be the same way. Regulators really hated derivatives in 1980s, but just soon after that, they really embraced derivatives. Okay, so I think what's happening in crypto world today is very similar to derivatives in 1980s, and it means that sooner rather than later, all those immature framework or regulatory framework and everything will be fixed. So, and the profitability of the business relating in the crypto is high today, but it can consist very quickly. And also all technologies or everything, the people who made money in derivatives were those who were in the derivatives market, like Salomon or Goldman or those guys. And then they developed the technology, and they set the rule by themselves ahead of others. And so they are involved in rule making, and they made money. So I think it's important, I think at least, for me and for my company to be in the crypto business, because, please believe me, in 5 years from today, the crypto is a very normal thing. Crypto, Bitcoin, I'm not sure. But some of the coins like Ethereum or Ripple, there are some arguments. It may be security token, such and such. But on the other hand, there are many nations, countries, discussing about issuing national digital cash, NDC. Okay, so in 5 years' time, there will be lots of NDC could be issued by the states, Singapore or Canada or those countries, and also some bitcoins and such. Payments world would be completely different today compared to today, and so those cryptocurrencies are really a part of our lives, I believe. So, but before that, you really need to be in there to know and to be a part of that development, and you can have the influence the rule setting. I remember those days in the 1980s or early 1990s. The Japanese institutional investors were massive users of derivatives. They kept selling volatility. They kept selling options, pick up yield, because of those days life insurance companies really wanted the current yield. So they sold options, short volatility, pick up coupon. And those days, they didn't have hedge accounting in Japan. Okay, even without hedge accounting those days in Japan. But still, Japanese institutions were one of the biggest players in derivatives. So as I said, similarly in crypto, the tax treatment is not ready yet, but still I believe they will be very active in crypto. So long story short, I think the retail money in Japan would probably go to stocks over fixed income, and a certain portion of money will do trading inside crypto, and the entire framework, regulations, and tax treatment and everything around crypto is going to change very quickly in any part of the world, and I think you should be in there. As we speak, the Monex group, which is listed on Tokyo Stock Exchange, after the news that the CoinCheck is going to be a part of the Monex group, our share price is more than doubled. And trading value and trading volume of Monex Group these days, every day, the biggest on Tokyo Stock Exchange, more than corporate sponsors. And so that tells how people are interested and paying attention to crypto. Okay, I expect many questions to come up, so let me stop here, and I'd like to open up for Q&As and discussions.
Thank you very much. Usually the presenter is supposed to have a question ready because there's a pause. But I think there'll be lots of people who want to ask questions, so we'll go straight to the questions. If I call on you, if you could say your name and the organization you're with, and then ask the question, that would be great. Go ahead, sir.
Please wait for the microphone.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to say wait for the microphone.
My name is Steve Lee from Blockdown Capital. It's a crypto hedge fund. I was in Goldman until last month in Tokyo, and I just left Goldman Tokyo last month, and I just moved to New York 2 days ago. So I have a little jet lag right now, but I couldn't miss this amazing session, so I just made it come. So my question, of course, on cryptocurrency. And when I was in Tokyo last month, I met a lot of exchanges, regulators, and retail people, and community leaders, and everyone. And it seems like still regulation is one of the big factors that impact on crypto community, at least Asia. I'm Korean, so I know very well in Korea market as well. So I guess Oki-san and then you guys will know, talk with a lot of regulators in Japan. So I know Japan is pro crypto in one sense, but I feel like recently it's a bit getting slower in terms of promote this crypto field. So what is your kind of insight on these Japanese regulators to work on, or do they try to encourage retail people more on crypto, or like what are their sentiment?
Well, I think it's still kind of developing stage, and the FSA, it is not 100% clear if FSA really wanted to legalize the cryptocurrency in the way people tend to think. I mean, it may be a sub-product of, FSA needed to deal with the AML and KYC and that kind of things. So they had to somehow create a framework for cryptocurrency. It ended up looking like, really endorsing the cryptocurrency. But anyway, but I think, because of that, big incident happened with CoinCheck, it was a, socially very big news. And so they are really carefully, trying to reframe the entire environment. I think us Monex stepping into the situation, it may be changing some, the landscape, because now, I'm saying that we Monex and myself can act as like a translator in between the crypto world, crypto community, and regulators. Crypto guys, they're very good. They are very smart. They have great ideas and technologies, but they don't have the same language the FSA use. Okay, the FSA guys, on the other hand, they don't particularly necessarily understand really the crypto. So I'm trying to become the catalyst or translator in between to try to, make the regulation framework in Japan for crypto to be good. So it's again, it's still in the developing stage.
Please.
I'm David Schuler. I left Goldman Sachs in Japan about 15 years ago, so we didn't overlap at any point. I'm now with a new merchant bank, crypto-friendly, called Y2X. Just started, and we're looking at doing fundraising for venture companies in both traditional as well as non-traditional forms, including token raises. And I was wondering if you could comment on how you and the regulators and just corporate Japan are viewing capital formation via token issuances.
Well, again, it's very early stage, and I can't talk for regulator. I'm not a regulator, but I think the FSA probably think as token sales as same as security. Like ICOs should be regulated in the securities-related law. I think that is basically the stance of FSA. But I do know that FSA is very closely discussing with SEC here. And these days, in Japan and the States, in this financial regulatory framework, they really co-work together. So I would expect, both in the States and Japan, it will become the similar rule, I think. And on the other hand, there would be some countries try to take advantage of that situation. And so it's kind of, that kind of, how do you say, country versus country fight, or the competition of the business model by nations. So we will see. But I think Japan would be rather conservative on the ICOs, I think.
Oh yes, the far right, ma'am.
You were mentioning the retail trading, prop trading doesn't care about taxes, and then you also were mentioning that
Could you mention your name and organization?
Sorry, Scott Daspin, Triad Securities, based here in New York City. You were mentioning the retail investors that do prop trading don't care about taxes. I'm not familiar with the Japanese community with regards to who these traders are. Are these the millennials that are trading Bitcoin, or are there a different segment of the retail investor, that does the prop trading from a certain age characteristic?
Well, age-wise, cryptos are done by basically mostly millennials. And Nomura's and Daiwas, they deal with like 60s and 70s, or maybe 80s these days. And we deal with like 40s, 50s, and 60s, right? And then CoinCheck or those crypto guys, their customers are teenagers and 20s and maybe early 30s. So demographic-wise, it's totally different. And also, maybe there should be, of course, older customers in crypto world too, but probably they are those who don't have much experience in regular capital markets investment or trading. So it's very different type of customers, I believe. Which is, by the way, very good for us. We have completely complement, the customer base. It's good for us.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. My name is Su Zhang. I did work for Goldman in Hong Kong office as well.
The whole crowd
Yeah.
is
Oh
Goldman.
my God.
Yeah.
Oh my
There's
God.
nobody here that's not from Goldman.
New York is sinking.
I have two questions. First one is, it seems that Japanese retail investors are very shrewd. They not only able to identify the best investment opportunities, but also they can move the market, especially the currency market. I wonder who are the advisor or any media platform that inform the Japanese retail investors, or they're just learn by themselves, or they're good at investing? That's my first question. Second question is, now Japanese retail investors are moving to cryptocurrencies, and more probably institutional investors will move on board as well. I wonder, now that you acquire CoinCheck, I wonder whether you will have any plan to build up the custodian platform for institutional investors as well as retail investors. Because now, given the public key and the private key mechanism, it's a little bit technological challenging for regular retail investors to utilize this platform. So if you build up like easier platform for retail investors as well as a custodian platform for institutional investors, probably the barrier of entry this field even.
So before I forget, I answer the second question first. In Japan currently, the crypto is for retail people, and institutional investors are not in yet in crypto. So in that case, again, Japanese retail people are very good, but it's not necessarily the case for institutions. But anyway, so institutional investors in Japan are very slow, so they are not in crypto yet. But anyway, first of all, I think the Monex will think about starting institutional business in crypto. I understand that is big business in the States. There's no business in Japan yet, but that may be an opportunity, so we will think about it. As regard to the custodian service, I don't think we are going to do, because the CoinCheck is custodian. It's an exchange, matching service and other trading platform plus custodian. Okay, and we make money in this trading side, and custodian is a huge risk, but we don't make money, but it's huge risk. if we start doing a custodian service, we don't make a lot of money, but we carry a huge risk. I don't think that is a good idea. I think custodian part would be, I would let the trust bank or those Japanese legacy bank to take care of it. That probably happen in the, I don't know, sometime in the future. The custodian for crypto would be done by trust banks, but not soon, maybe in 2 or 3 years time, I guess, a little bit away. As regard to the first question, I am not sure if I completely understand your question, but the retail people do take information from, the all kinds of channels. When I say retail people do make right decision, I'm talking about the macro-wise. I'm not talking about the one each person make a right decision, because each person may receive the wrong, fake information or make a wrong decision. But if you look at the summation of all those retail people, and each one has got a different kind of information source or blah, 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 and then summation, they tend to be right. So I'm not sure if I answered your question right, but I think that's what I think.
I would point out that the most popular TV business show is hosted by Oki's wife, so that's certainly one place where people get information. Was there a question over here? Yes, yes, sir.
I have not. My name is Ken Stewart. I have not worked for Goldman Sachs. I'm a lawyer with a New York firm, Becker, Glenn Muffley, Chasten, and Ozinski. And I'd like to get back to the regulating question, because you've had experience in the United States as well as Tokyo. Here we have our Treasury Department, which is looking at Bitcoin or cryptocurrency as taxable property, as perhaps it is in Japan. The other part of the Treasury Department, FinCEN, is looking at it as money, currency, and money laundering. The SEC is looking at it as securities. The CFTC is looking at it as commodities. And we have the states that are also looking at regulating it. How do you think we can have an international global financial currency system with cryptocurrency facing this morass of regulatory situation in the US?
Well, the being right doesn't necessarily mean a good thing. And many times you do need some stupid systems or irrational things so that you can keep employment. And so, what's happening, what I see from Japan, what's happening on the Treasury versus SEC versus CFTC is like, typical kind of, how do you say in English, zoning or, try to get a territory and that stuff. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are making the true, rational, logical discussion. The currency is a very political thing. For example, the EU, I thought they were falling out. they are falling down, but maybe they are not. But the problem with EU is that they have currency, but they don't have treasury, right? So it's strange. Okay, so to have the ability to issue currency is very important, right? So the central bank, they need to have that ability to control the demand, or the ability to attract demand and weakening currency and strengthening currency and such. It's very important. And also there is, I think that there is a new version of sinology that by issuing currency is a good business. Like in Japan or in the States, you print the dollar bill, and once it's used for settling the drug or weapon, then that data would never come back to the bank. So the government issue as a debt, but it becomes equity. It's like a constant debt equity swap happening on the currency for the big country like a US or Japan, right? So when I think about that, there's no point for the big nation to lose the ability to issue its own currency in the paper format. Because once they move into digital, they don't enjoy this synergy. You may have to pay tax, you may have to pay interest. If it's a blockchain, you know where it is, so you have to pay interest and such, it doesn't make sense. And also, to create international digital cash, then the central banks lose job, and they can play around those the things. So I think we will continue to see those inefficiency in this world, this crypto world too. But that is how we've been living with so far and going forward, I think. So I'm very skeptical about when the U.S. Treasury or some people talk about that they are really embracing the cryptocurrency and such. I always have a skepticism. I'm sorry, I'm originally from a fixed income, not the equity. So fixed income people tend to try to think about what is behind, and to always thinking that the downward, not upward. So maybe I'm too cynical, but that's something I think.
Any other questions? Yes.
Robert Delamater from Sullivan and Cromwell. There's a lot of criticism of the inefficiency of governments, but they maintain land records that go back for centuries. And so it's possible to know who owns every parcel of land, and it's a system that works pretty well. DTC in the United States is, maybe it's a big bureaucracy, but it keeps very good track of the ownership of shares in US companies. It's very difficult, maybe impossible, to steal shares in a public company in the US because it's easily traced who owns them. When people talk about blockchain, they talk about how wonderful it is because the records are unchangeable, it's always possible to trace transactions and so forth. But then you have these stories of hundreds of millions of Bitcoin going missing and no one can seem to find them. So it isn't much of an ad for the robustness of the record keeping compared to systems that already exist. But I feel I must be missing something.
No, I think you are absolutely right. I'm not saying that the Bitcoin or blockchain will change record keeping thing completely, such as derivatives. 1980s very small, hated. Now it's everybody understand and it's got recognition and such, but still it's just derivatives. It's just you have the real market and then there is a derivatives. It's always sub-product, subset, but it's much bigger than before. The samely, the blockchain and Bitcoin or blockchain or crypto would be much bigger than today, would be more accepted than today. But yes, still, I don't think it will completely change the record-keeping system. For example, by the way, I myself use the paper schedule note with the pencil. How do you say sharp pencil? The
Mechanical pencil.
Mechanical pencil to write down my schedule because combination of the carbon and the papyrus is proven product. It can keep the record for centuries, like 40 centuries. Okay, so I use it. Similarly, the current system would survive. But one thing I'd like to say is that, the printing before the Gutenberg, invented the printing, the church. I'm not a Christian, so I may make a wrong statement. But if I did it, please forgive me. But the church wrote. They rewrote the Bibles. Okay, one by one. So they had a strong power because it's only church you can find Bible. Gutenberg came, and Martin Luther did, the revolution of Christianity or something, and then it printed Bible. And then the power of the church, okay? So the printing really changed that stuff. The internet used to be the information always come from the government or the newspaper company, basically the establishment. But internet changed the landscape, whereby with internet, anyone can send information to the world. Okay, so internet really changed it was a revolution, like printing. Printing was a big revolution, and then internet was another big revolution to change that. But still, all records, as you said, the land and everything, record keeping is still kept by the nation. Okay, so what printing did, what internet did. Similarly, the blockchain they will try to change this kind of last resort of the nation to keep their power is to keep those records, right? So there's some interesting kind of the fight or whatever revolution to try to change it. At the end of the day, it won't change completely, but there is a certain kind of dividend of this blockchain technology to create a new kind of economy, which I'm talking about, which is not very small. It can be some size.
Bob, as you may know, in Japan right now there's a huge problem with the amount of land that nobody knows who owns it because of the record keeping. It's about the same landmass as Hokkaido, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So same land as you used to have.
Oh, maybe it's mine. Time for one more question, sir.
Thank you. I'm Michael Denning with Daiwa Securities. Could you talk about the thought process behind the acquisition of CoinCheck? Did you always want to have a crypto exchange? Were you thinking of making one? The CoinCheck hack was just the perfect opportunity for you. If you could just talk about the process there, and then also what your expectations are for the business and how it might impact Monex Group going forward.
Well, the media reported that Daiwa was in the bid. So, but anyway, the half year ago, I officially announced in the public domain that we Monex Group would really think that the blockchain is important for the financial businesses, and the crypto exchanges is a really kind of hub of the blockchain-related technologies and engineering and thought. So it's very important for us to create a crypto exchange, cryptocurrency exchange. We announced it in the public domain half year ago. So we were preparing for that. And then the CoinCheck thing happened. And they were, at that time, they were a far advanced company than Monex as regard to crypto related. So that unfortunate thing happened. And then in the middle of March, they approached me and wanted to have discussion. And then it took just 3 weeks to get completely close the deal. It took me like 2 weeks to announce it, and then 3 weeks to everything together, just 3 weeks to close the deal. We just said, we were going to do that. You are advanced, but you are in a special situation. You need someone to, enhance the internal controls and blah, blah, blah. So we said, okay, let's work together. So it's not really acquisition. It's more like, you know, that kind of, how do you say, 縁って英語でなんて言うんですか? 縁.
Not luck, fate.
Fate?
No.
Whatever. You know, so we meant to work together.
Yeah, meant to work.
So so that happened. So that is how I view what happened. And we are working very friendly together. I respect them, and they appreciate us. And we work beautifully friendly together. And I think they can provide lots of value for us. If it's profit, if it's engineers, if it's a new way of thinking, or if it's a UI, UX, new customer base. You know, I joked at the press conference that, you know, the Monex being around for 19 years, and, you know, we get covered by, you know, not only Japanese medias, but also English medias. But now with CoinCheck, you know, there's a Russian and Spanish and Portuguese, you know, the articles on Monex and CoinCheck. It's, you know, it's really global, right? So, so we are very excited to work with them, and then we can try to create a truly new financial conglomerate together.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Oki.
Thank you very much.